All right, good morning, everyone. My name is James Senecal. I'm Director of Solution Architecture in North America. This will be in English because my German is horrific, so I'm not even going to try. We're going to be talking about risk-based testing today. And risk-based testing, we're predominantly talking about optimizing and prioritizing, okay? I talk to a lot of customers around the United States on a regular basis, and I ask them about risk-based testing. Are you guys doing risk-based testing? And I always get, yes, we are. And I say, oh, great. So give me a percentage, right, your risk percentage of your testing. And what do I get? 95%. 87%. They have no idea. They actually don't know what the risk is associated with their testing. And so to me, risk-based testing, it's kind of like a good night's sleep. Everyone really wants a good night's sleep, but nobody's really sure how to do it. How do you get a good night's sleep? You stop drinking caffeine, you, I don't know, listen to good music, whatever the case may be. We never really know how we're going to get a good night's sleep. So there's a lot of work involved. So we want to do the same thing, risk-based testing. We have to start with a definition. What is it? Okay? Risk, right, is an undesirable outcome that's associated with a business impact. My application, I deploy it, it doesn't work, that's bad. Hurts the business, people don't like me anymore, I didn't test it right. Okay? Risk-based testing prioritizes and optimizes the appropriate tests, okay, via the requirements. So I have to make sure I have very clear requirements with regards to how I'm going to prioritize and optimize. We have to prioritize because do we have enough time, sir? Do you have enough time to test every single function in your application? Well, you would if you spent years upon years testing your app, but then you'd never deploy. So we have to make sure we're doing the right number of tests, prioritized based on risk. And so risk-based testing is efficiently testing prioritized based on application functionality to avoid that undesirable business outcome. That's a lot of words. What does it mean? It means do the right things and do them right. Test the right things, test them the right way. Don't overtest, don't undertest. Make sure that you're hitting the key functionality based on those requirements. So that way, I can say we can deploy the application. Here's the problem. Today, people go through and they base their application readiness, their deployment readiness, on the number of test cases. What does this tell me? Right? I have 539 test cases. What does that tell me? Nothing. I have no idea did we test the right functionality? Who knows? Is this the right number of test cases? What if they're only testing one table and they forget the rest of the application? That's bad. So we need to make sure that we're ready to go live, and we can only do that if we're looking at our requirements, right, and optimizing and prioritizing. So how do we do it? We look at the business impact. Okay? In Tosca, we're going to use two really cool things, frequency class and damage class, okay? And we take those so that way we can focus on what's most important to the business. Now, I start talking about frequency and damage, and people say, what's that? How does that work? Tell me, right? So here's a little example. This is a banking application on my phone. Okay, it's not on my phone. That'd be bad. So we have to look at what's the damage class and what's the frequency class. High frequency and high damage. If I open this application and I can't view my account, or if I can't pay my bill, that's going to be pretty upsetting to my customers, right? So people are using transferring funds, pay bill, and view account. They use that all the time. And so if it doesn't work, that makes the bank look really bad. Okay, low frequency and medium damage. I look for an ATM so I can get some cash. Well, people don't use it all that often, but if they do, hey, don't do that. Why would it be medium damage? Well, maybe instead of sending them to my ATM, I send them to a different bank ATM. And they say, oh, well, their ATM is nicer, so they switch banks. That's not good. What if I change my address? How often do people move? Not very often. But if they change their address and it doesn't work correctly, that's bad. Now they don't get their checks in the mail, or they don't get their statement. Well, what about low frequency and low damage? An ATM lookup. Oh, well, wait a minute. How could it be both? Well, if it's low damage, let's just say we send them to the wrong address, but the ATM is just a block over, or it's across the street. They're going to find that, so it's not so much of an impact. So you could have a situation where you could have different damage and different frequency. Okay? So it's very important when you go through this process that the business dictates what's the priority and what has the most impact. I can make a lot of guesses, but I don't run the business. So I could guess that these things are important, but I have to talk to the business leaders so they can give us what's critical, what needs to be tested in the right way. So now we understand our business impact, right? We understand how to prioritize. The next thing we want to do is we want to take advantage of Tosca so that way we can optimize our test data. Okay? Has everybody played with linear expansion and orthogonal and pairwise in Tosca? They're very cool algorithms. What they do is if I have a set of data, they will optimize that data set so that it matches my risk. So if I say that 80% risk is okay, or 20 risk efficiency, right? I want to be at 80% or higher, then I'm going to use the right algorithm so that way I optimize my data. And now when I take that data set and I apply it to the test, I'm not going to test too little and I'm not going to test too much. I'm going to efficiently test in the right amount of time. So that way I can get to my release instead of testing for 5 and 10 years to get an application. So this is critical in optimizing data, right, with regards to risk-based testing. Now, when we go through and we put this together, I end up with frequency class, damage class associated with my requirements. I have the right amount of data associated with my tests. And so when I execute those tests, I have very clear insight into release readiness. I can now look at my testing and say, you know what? We've met the right requirements, we've tested to the right level, and now this is acceptable. I can actually let this application go into production. Or maybe I say, no, it's not ready, right? We got too much. There are too many problems still. So this gives me clear insight. If I don't have a good view into readiness, right, again, then I'm just back to a number of test cases. 539, is that enough? I don't know. But here, I can see exactly what was tested and how, and I can see where we are in the overall testing process, and if we're at the right level of readiness. What does this come down to? You always have to have a quote from Wolfgang. You want to test smarter, not harder. Every customer that I'm talking to these days, they are testing a lot harder, and they're not doing any better in terms of their overall testing. So when we introduce risk-based testing and optimization across the board, we get to test a whole lot smarter. We're more efficient, making sure that we're testing the right number of test cases, not too many and not too few. And we have a good understanding, so when the business management comes to us and says, can we deploy the application, we're extremely confident and we can say, yes, this is good to go. Or we can say, no, we're not ready to go. Questions? Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy Accelerate. We got a lot of great stuff going on. We'll see you very soon.